Fed Chair Jerome Powell giving his starkest warning yet on President Trump's tariffs.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation. The inflationary effects could also be more persistent.
Wall Street clearly not a fan of this new message. Joining us now to discuss, CNN business editor-at-large Richard Quest, who's actually live this hour at the New York International Auto Show. I imagine there's a little bit of chatter about this there, too. So Powell here said the public's going to pay for these tariffs and basically said, brace yourself, there's some pain coming our way.
Yes, and although he had said this before, just a few weeks ago, he sort of alluded to it and made some tangential reference. This time it was full throttle. Anybody who's used to Fed speak knew exactly what Powell was saying, that inflation is going to go up. The worry is that that inflation, once it arrives, will be persistent on top of that which is already in the system. And, you know, you go 1 + 1 + 1 equals, it means that the Fed won't be able to lower interest rates. Because what the Fed chair said is that the dual mandate, full employment, price stability, are now about to go into conflict. They're going to have higher inflation, and that's going to mean higher interest rates for a longer period. How much longer? How high? What they're going to do, no one knows because it's so uncertain. But this is not the canary in the mine. This is actually the man walking in front with a red flag.
Stocks right now are sinking sharply. Investors are reacting to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who says that the effects of President Trump's tariffs will likely include, among other things, higher inflation, saying that U.S. consumers will pay a large part of that burden. With us now is chairman of O'Leary Ventures, Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary. Thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. Sir, I want to get your reaction to what Jerome Powell is saying, that we're going to see higher inflation and slower growth. That sounds like a recipe for stagflation.
He doesn't know that yet because, like everybody else, he doesn't know how long this tariff, let's call it negotiation, is going to go on for. He would be right if this lasted years. I doubt it's going to happen that way. Let's be pragmatic. The midterms are less than 18 months away. Trump can't have this on his back at the midterms. He risks losing a majority. So he's got to resolve this quickly, and that's why they're going at breakneck speed. No administration has ever tried to negotiate 60-plus countries at once, and that's one basket. The Europeans, the Mexicans, the Canadians, I get it, you know, Taiwan, whatever it is. But the big deal here is China. That's the behemoth. We're the biggest market. They know it. So much of what's made in China goes to the United States. And so that's really the one to focus on. I think the rest is a sideshow because it's going to get resolved with probably equivalent tariffs or no tariffs at all. But the China deal, that's a big deal.
Trump has told his team that China has to make the first move toward negotiations. A reporting indicates that the administration told President Xi that he should request a call with Trump. The phone, as far as we know, is not yet rung, as Xi is touting these new deals with trade partners in Southeast Asia. Do you think he's blowing off the president?
No. He could combine the entire, market in Southeast Asia. It doesn't come close to what he sells to the United States. So that's not going to resolve anything. This is just posturing. We've got two behemoth leaders that don't want to look like they're weak. I get it. But this is a ticking time bomb. It's got to get resolved. There's no question about it. But the resolution with China is not just about trade. We now have at the table, and there's plenty of people talking about this on the Hill, we got to resolve this IP theft thing. They're just stealing too much IP. So much of the industry that's been developed in China is based on the back of American software or American IP. And this thing has got to get resolved. So it's two discussions going on at once. I think it's going to happen within 10 days. I'm guessing like everybody else, but I believe that these two will be talking soon. They're going to have to.
To your point about IP theft, it's been going on for so long that some in American leadership and in American business have argued that it's part of the culture of doing business with China. And I wonder, as someone who does business with China, if you think something needs to change in Beijing in order for them to give up their pursuit of U.S. IP, essentially stealing American intellectual property?
Yes, I can answer it with one word: consequences. That's what has to happen. We haven't done anything. There's been no consequences for the IP theft for over 20 years since China joined the WTO in the year 2000. Thousands and thousands of complaints, zero consequences. Other administrations in the past have allowed this to go on unanswered. It's got to stop now because we're really in an economic war with China, and it's a fair competition if it's a level playing field. We're not allowed to litigate in their courts. We have no say through the WTO in how to actually bring these complaints forward to resolution, and yet they continue to cheat and to steal and to rip off American ingenuity. Entrepreneurship gets hurt, generally at around 5 million in sales. I've documented this now for over a week. Brought it to the Hill, gave examples to Congress and the Senate, what's wrong here. And I'm really thankful on behalf of the millions of American entrepreneurs whose products have been stolen, ripped off, and then knocked off in China and sold back into the U.S. market at 30 to 40% discount. It has to end. And now's the time to deal with it. If Xi wants a deal on trade and they want to tone this whole thing down, he's got to address the IP theft. It's got to stop.
It hasn't seemed from their latest moves that the Chinese are eager to do that. And in fact, they've blocked U.S. access to rare earth minerals. Also, there was this announcement of a block of Boeing deliveries to Chinese airlines. I wonder, of all the levers that Xi has in his disposal to inflict pain not only on American producers but also consumers, which most worries you?
I'd rather be on the U.S. side on this one because the truth is there are other solutions for rare earth minerals and resources, and it's called Canada. We got to resolve that problem. There shouldn't be any tiff with them. They've got everything the North American market needs, including energy, a massive amount of energy. We should do that deal anyways and just show China by combining the economies one way or another, not buying the country, forget the 51st state, all that stuff. The point is, if we get a union back on track there, we can go back to the Chinese and say, look, we have everything we need in the world's largest economy under democracy. Don't mess with us. That's what we should be doing, and we're going to get there. That's what I think is going to happen here. That's the signal in all the noise right now, and that would include Mexico, too. You think about these economies put together in a cooperative way, it's a massive opportunity. The Canadians have an election in less than 2 weeks. They'll resolve with a new prime minister, and he'll come back to Washington. We'll work it out.
Isn't that what the USMCA and before that NAFTA was doing? I mean, you're essentially saying that President Trump's quest to make Canada the 51st state is just a bad idea, a dumb idea. What would your advice to him be on that?
No. NAFTA and U.S. and all of these negotiations, want to call this NAFTA 3, that's how most people remember it, has nothing to do with security. This is a whole new world we're in. The deal that has to be contemplated now is economic might. That's what matters. And that may involve a common currency, just like the EU has, a passport system, that people have the ability to move freely across North America, as the indigenous populations do. Some amount of working together on central bank issues between the two countries. And it's all for the benefit of a union, a combined union. And that's where we should be discussing it because, look, I'm a realist. I'm watching what China's doing. They're not messing around. They're trying to catch up, and they're cheating and stealing to do it. We've got to show a gigantic behemoth economy that nobody can catch up to, and that would be a Canadian and U.S. union. Now, it's lost in the noise right now. There's so much rhetoric going on. But China, they got the long view. We got to get the long view, too. But meanwhile, we're the biggest. Well, when you're the biggest economy, you have strength, you have leverage, you've got the cards, and you have to squeeze heads until you get what you want. And that's what we've got to do. And squeezing heads means don't steal our IP, or there will be consequences. Now, you want to start thinking about what they could be. Economic consequences are going to Europe as well and shutting down China exports there, because that's the only way you're going to get their attention. They only understand economic strength and the stick. The stick is what they understand.